today. Can Alex Pereira complete his rise to the top of the MMA landscape after winning his second title in the UFC? And what about Sergey Pavlovich, the Russian juggernaut? Can he defeat the man from the UK, the man with his own song burning up the airwaves, Tommy Aspinall? And what about Matt Frivola versus Benoit Saint Denis? That's going to be violence. That's going to be a scrap. Someone's going to get carted out in that fight, ladies and gentlemen. And also, what about Mackenzie Dern? All of this and more on today's episode of Matter of Fact MMA. What's up? What's happening? What's going on? Let's go. We about to get off into it. It's your boy Matt. I got my fizz on to check my nizzotes. We gonna get off into this. We not gonna waste no time. We right back into it. We're going to break down UFC 295 with the long-awaited main event coming live to you in Madison Square Gardens. We're talking about Poatan, Alex Pereira stepping in the octagon with Yuri Prochazka. Let's start out with this fight. Of course, we're going to start out with this fight. It's the main event now. Bro, I've been waiting for this fight for a long time. We're going to have Alex Pereira see if he can win his second championship in the UFC, while Yuri Prochazka, he will actually be winning his second championship in the UFC. Just Poatan coming from a different weight division. So in this fight, it's hard to call, but I got to go with my guy, Alex Pereira. Alex Pereira, I believe, when you're talking about both of these men, Alex and Yuri striking, I think Yuri, of course, is more unorthodox. He's coming from crazy angles. He's throwing shots from all different directions. You're getting hit with fists and kicks that you didn't even know. How many people's in the octagon fighting me? I don't know. Because they're coming from everywhere because it's Yuri Prochazka. You know what I'm saying? You're getting hit from all different angles, as well as Yuri proved in his win over Glover that if he needs to, he can grapple. But more importantly, he can scramble with the best in the division. So he's definitely got more than a chance of winning this fight, beyond a chance. You know, I believe that Poatan might be the favorite according to DraftKings, but you know, it's almost a pick'em at this point when you're talking about these two fighters. I'm going to choose Alex Pereira to get the win here for a couple of reasons. I believe that both men can definitely knock someone out. So there's no question about that. The vicious knockout that Yuri had over Dominic Reyes, I mean, that proves everything you need to prove when you're talking about Yuri. And then, of course, we're talking about Poatan, who goes in there and puts people on Dream Street. You know what I'm talking about? Poatan comes in there, and Poatan sends people to Nappy Nunu time. You know what I'm talking about? Poatan comes in there. It's like an 85-year-old man that has just taken his medication that has possibly might cause a little bit of drowsiness. But because he's 85 years old, when that pill hits him, that man, he goes under. You know what I'm talking about? Ain't no slight bit of drowsiness. That man is out. And he's out for a long period of time. That's the type of NyQuil devastating power that Poatan packs in that left hook of doom. Because when he hits you with that left hook of doom, you start remembering things you did in the first grade, second grade. You know, for people in other areas of the world, primary school, you know what I'm saying? You start thinking of grammar tests and think, I probably should have chosen B on question 2 on that test in second grade. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It gets real when Poatan hits you with that left hook of doom. In my opinion, I think that Poatan doesn't seem like he gasses easily. Now, I'm not saying that Yuri does either. So I believe both men are comparable when it comes to stamina. I believe both men possess the power to knock another man out. I think that Yuri has the more unorthodox striking. I believe that Poatan keeps his striking very basic compared to Yuri, but he excels at those basic strikes that he throws. I believe that when it comes to the ground game, as far as we know, maybe you might give the edge. You might give the edge to Yuri in that, considering he submitted Glover Teixeira and he's very good at the scrambles. However, we don't know where Poatan is at this point after having this many months of working with Glover, and this is a retired Glover. So Glover's around all the time to help coach him and to help him work on his ground game. As well as, now he did get grounded completely by my guy Yanni Blako or Jan Blachowicz. You know what I'm saying? He was grounded by him. At the same time, Poatan's stamina held up at altitude in Salt Lake City, and he still went on to beat Jan Blachowicz. So it's a hard one to call, but when it comes down to it, I think that Poatan is going to be able to keep Yuri's unorthodox striking style at bay with those devastating leg kicks that Alex Pereira can throw those leg kicks, and it almost looks like he's barely whipping his leg out. But when that thing comes out, it's devastating. It deadens the nerves. People's whole leg falls off. Even Izzy had to admit, even Israel Adesanya had to admit that leg kick did him in their first fight in the UFC. And he was doing a number on his leg in their rematch in the UFC, even though, nod to Izzy, he pulled that one off. I think that Alex Pereira is going to be able to keep him at bay with that. I believe Yuri might not be as unorthodox as he normally is, because he knows Pereira excels at just the basic striking, the basic jabs, the basic punches. He doesn't do a ton of crazy angles. He has good angles, but he doesn't do a ton of that because he pours his power, he pours his technique in just the basics. And when you've got a guy using a lot of unorthodox striking like Yuri, you want somebody that can just throw those punches straight down the pipe, straight to you, not a lot of looping, not a lot of wild angles, and that's the style to beat someone like Prochazka. In my opinion, I think that to cap it all off, you got that left hook of doom. If he ever catches Yuri slipping, which he might not, because let's not front, Yuri is a world-class striker. World-class. So, it's a very even matchup. I'm going to give the slight nod, even though Yuri beat Glover Teixeira, I'm going to give the slight nod to Alex Pereira because Glover has been in there. He shared the octagon for 5 rounds with Yuri Prochazka. And arguably, well, it isn't an argument. He was beating him until he was submitted by Yuri. He was winning up until that moment. He's been in there with the guy. I'm sure he went the extra mile in coaching Alex because he wants to get that win back, at least back in his camp. That experience of sharing the octagon with him for 5 rounds, he has to be able to tell some things to Alex Pereira. As well as Alex Pereira has had a healthy schedule. He was just recently in the octagon. He stayed active. Yuri's coming off of this devastating shoulder injury. He's been out of that octagon, and I don't really necessarily believe in cage rust or ring rust, but still, when you got a guy that's been in there, he's been active, and he's been fighting the best in the world, I don't know, man. That's a tough one. I'm gonna lean toward Alex Pereira to get the job done in the main event and become the new light heavyweight champion of the world. Let's move on to the co-main event where we have Sergey Pavlovich, who was the backup fighter of the canceled fight between John Jones and Stipe Miocic due to John Jones tearing his pectoral muscle. He steps in the octagon in an interim heavyweight championship fight against Tommy Espinal. Nah, 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 nah. I know y'all didn't want to see me do the song, but I did the song anyway. Now what? We get to see these two step off in the octagon. Look, man, this is interesting. This is interesting because of this. In my opinion, as I've said in previous videos, I believe Tommy Aspinall is one of the few heavyweights that if he wins the world championship, in this case, the interim heavyweight championship, that if he truly becomes that star that we all know he can be in the UK, I believe that might be the only thing that can entice Jon Jones to do any other fight outside of fighting Stipe Miocic, especially now that Big Francis is out of here and he's going to be the new man in heavyweight boxing. So, when it comes down to it, man, he might be the only guy to entice him out, but I'm just going to say this right now. I said this in a previous video. With all that being said, my pick to win this fight is Sergey Pavlovich. I've spoken about it before, but Sergey Pavlovich packs dynamite. C4. He packs nuclear bombs. Sergey Pavlovich got Oppenheimer in both of his fists, and he just shoves them down into two extremely large UFC gloves and steps into the octagon. The man is packing something else. Now, here's what I'm saying. Tommy Aspinall could very well go out there and take Sergey Pavlovich down to the ground and submit him. He could definitely take him down to the ground and control him for multiple rounds, and win by the scorecards. He could definitely go out there and take him down, get Sergey thinking about the takedown, thinking about the shot, and then catch him on the feet and lay him out. All of these things are possible. I believe that the more well-rounded fighter is Tom Aspinall. But there's something about Sergey Pavlovich. And something about Sergey, I think he has good takedown defense. I'm not saying it's the best. There's a lot of things about Pavlovich that I'm not saying is the best. But what I saw out there is Curtis Blades, who I would say has a more accomplished ground game than Tom Aspinall. He didn't have nothing for Pavlovich. He had nothing for the man. And Pavlovich went out there and he got the job done. And he, when he hits people with those shots, I'm not saying it's in the same league as Francis Ngannou, but when he hits people with those shots, people get deadened. People that they pay that toll. They pay that as they're on that boat and there's mist and smoke around them. It's dark. It's late at night, and it comes time to pay that toll for the talisman, for the Grim Reaper to take you across that river. And that's the end of your life. And maybe you'll go on to see your other loved ones. What I'm saying is Sergey Pavlovich is the man that puts you on that boat, that puts you on that raft to where you got to pay the toll to the Grim Reaper to cross that river on and beyond. Maybe you'll get to see your loved ones. That's a long and roundabout way of saying I believe Sergey Pavlovich is going to win this fight. You heard it here first from your boy Matt. I think he's going to be able to use his takedown defense and withstand what Tom Aspinall is going to throw at him. And if Tom Aspinall takes him down, I don't know if he'll be able to get back to his feet, but if he can avoid the submission, the next round begins on the feet and we right back in Sergey's realm. There's just something about him. I think he's special. I think he's different. That's not to say that Tom Aspinall isn't, because I think he is special and he's a different type of heavyweight as well. But there's something about Sergey. These guys, much like Francis Ngannou, when they pack that touch of death, where they can just touch you and you're, hey, what happened to Tom? He just passed out. Oh, okay. There's something about those fighters that it's the intangible. How many guys did Francis Ngannou, when he was in the UFC, beat that you're like, this guy should be able to take him down, ride him out, and do his thing? Not so fast. Francis sent him into the shadow realm. And I think Sergey is the same way. So I'm calling for Sergey Pavlovich to win the interim heavyweight championship of the world. Now, if Jon Jones, whoever wants to step in the octagon with him, it remains to be seen. But that's my choice. Let's move on. Next on the card, another fight I wanted to talk about. We got Mackenzie Dern, fresh out in these streets, fresh up off of being divorced. She fresh in these streets, you know what I'm talking about? Stepping in there with Jessica Andrade, former champion. So here's the thing, man. I've enjoyed many, many years of watching Jessica Andrade go out there and put a hurting on women. And it's been great. It's been outstanding. But I believe Jessica Andrade might have seen her better days. I think she's on her way out. You know, I could kind of see Jessica Andrade actually possibly fighting out her contract in the UFC and moving on to PFL and, you know, winning her a clean, smooth 1 million in their tournament. You know what I'm saying? Especially if the PFL goes ahead and purchases Bellator and kind of lumps all those female fighters together. So, you know, I don't know. I mean, you know, there was so many times in history that you couldn't have paid me to pick Mackenzie Dern to beat Jessica Andrade. But I believe at this point in time today, I think Mackenzie Dern gets the job done. She looked outstanding on the feet against Angela Hill. She's looked extremely competent in a lot of her fights. And I feel like Mackenzie Dern has her mind right. She's out there fighting. She talked about in the interview, or I'm sorry, in the press conference, that a good portion of her purse, if not the whole purse, is going to paying whatever she owes to her husband that she's now divorced or paying legal fees. I don't know what it's paying. Alimony? I don't know. Shout out to that good man because they're co-parenting and raising their daughter. But I don't know. But Mackenzie Dern needs that cash. So, you know, Mackenzie Dern is out here fighting not only to, you know, get a shot at the title eventually, not only to be in the upper echelon of the division, but the homegirl needs that money. You know what I'm saying? Her ex-husband is taking her to the cleaners, y'all, and she needs that bread. So I'm picking Mackenzie Dern to go out there and get the win. Possibly tires out Andrade after Andrade throws everything in the kitchen sink in the first round and submits her on the ground. Let's move on. How about Matt Frevola against Benoit Saint Denis? Bro, this is my pick'em fight. This is my let's throw down, let's throw these hands. This is my woodshed. I'm taking you to the woodshed fight of the whole card. Matt Frevola versus Benoit Saint Denis is going to be an outstanding fight, in my opinion. And if it's not, one man is going to get knocked out early in the first round. And that's just what it is. You know, Matt Frevola has seen an outstanding surge. You know, at this point in his career, he's, you know, definitely on a win streak. He's showing people he can go out there and get the job done. And then Benoit Saint Denis, at this point in time, is appointment viewing television right now. You know, both of these guys will go out there, throw hands. Both of them are animated. Both men are cut from a different cloth, cut from a different grain. Both men seem like they could have fought in the movie 300, if you know what I'm talking about, and could have been out there just, this is Sparta. You know what I'm talking about? Maybe you don't, but you need to. I don't really know who to call in this fight, to be honest with you. Because I could see Matt Frevola upsetting everyone and laying out Benoit Saint Denis. And I know that's hard to see, but I could see it happening. But Benoit's cut from a different cloth, as I said. And he's on an amazing run right now. And you could tell he's really feeling himself. You could tell he feels like he's going to get the job done. He feels like he's going to be a title contender. You know, he really wants to put his country on his back. You know, representing France. France is really doing their thing right now. Ooh, that's hard to call. Matt Frevola, though, he's doing big things out here. Ooh, that's hard to call. Guys, I'm gonna go with Benoit Saint Denis. I'm gonna pick him. I feel like he's feeling it right now. He's feeling he can go to that next level. And if he can appeal to the dog side of Matt Frevola, because Matt Frevola's got that dog in him for sure. If he can appeal to that side of him. I think in a gunfight, two men throwing hands in that octagon, I think Benoit Saint Denis can get the win there. If it comes down to that. I might eat these words, but I'm going to choose him to get the win. Let's move on. We got Diego Lopez stepping in there with Pat Sabatini. Pat Sabatini is that man. Outstanding wrestler, has extremely good stand-up. His bread and butter is his grappling, is his wrestling. He's extremely good in scrambles as well on the ground. But, bro, I think Diego Lopez is built different. Ever since he got his short notice fight, his debut in the UFC, and even though he lost that first fight, if it wasn't a short notice fight, I think he could have won that. If he had a full training camp, I think he could have won that. Then when he got a full training camp in his last fight, he went out there and wow. You know what I mean? I'm going to go with Diego Lopez in this. I think he's going to go out there. From what I'm seeing, it's almost a pick'em fight. It looks like Pat Sabatini is a slight favorite in this. I'm going to lean toward Diego Lopez to go out there and get the win. I think the man from Brazil, he's built different. And when he showed what he showed on short notice, then he had a full training camp and went out there and did his thing. I think he's an outstanding fighter. He's long for the division. He's tall. He's rangy. He has strong stand-up. He's not just a skillful stand-up fighter, but he's extremely strong. And he can send you to the shadow realm if he needs to, as well as he has good submissions. He also is good in the scrambles. He also has good grappling. I would give the edge in just pure straight-up wrestling to Pat Sabatini, but I'm going along with Diego Lopez to get the win. Let's move on. We got Steve Erceg stepping in there with Alexandro Costa. I don't really know about that fight, man. That one's a hard one to call. I'm gonna lean toward Steve Erceg. I'm gonna lean toward him, but it's a slight lean. I don't really know enough about these guys to really make a pick, but judging by their last fights, I think, in just my opinion, I'm going to lean toward Erceg to get the win. We got Tabitha Ricci stepping in the octagon with Lupi Godinez. I got Lupi Godinez. Now, I like Tabitha Ricci. She's an outstanding fighter. I think she's skilled, but she's undersized compared to Lupi Godinez. Undersized. Lupi Godinez has been going out there and really had a strong schedule this year. She's only lost that short notice fight that she took, but she bounced right back with the training camp and dominated in her last fight. And I just think that her size and her physicality, I believe she'll be able to impose herself on Tabitha Ricci. If they were closer to the same size, I might lean toward Tabitha Ricci because I think she's extremely good at grappling. She has well-timed takedowns. You don't see her get into a ton of scrambling situations, but I feel she would be comparable in that. But I just think Lupi Godinez on the feet, because she's the larger woman, she can bring the physicality. I think that she's going to be able to slightly edge out Tabitha Ricci in that scenario. I'm going to go along with Lupi Godinez to get the win there. We got Oslava Claus stepping in there. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, we do. We got Slava Claus stepping in there against Nasim Sandikov. I'm going to go along with Slava Claus to get the job done. I don't know why, but I like him. I think Nazim is definitely probably the more skilled fighter, but there's something about the chaos that Slava Claus is able to cause on the feet that allows him, at a lot of times, I believe, to beat fighters that he might not necessarily should have beat. I think he thrives in the chaos of it all. So I'm going to lean towards Slava Claus for the upset here to get the win. Moving on the UFC website, they're showing that Roosevelt Roberts is going to step in there against, if I'm pronouncing his name right, Mateus Rebecki. I'm not sure if that fight is truly going to happen because the UFC is kind of weird when they sneak these fights in because this fight wasn't listed a few days ago or a week ago. I'm going to, no disrespect, shout out to Roosevelt Roberts. I'm going to have to fade him. I'm going to go along with Rebecca to get the win there. Moving on, we got Jared Gordon stepping in there against Mark Madsen. I'm going to go along with Jared Gordon. I think Jared Gordon showed a lot in what, as long as the Bobby Green fight lasted. I know that Jared Gordon and everyone else knows beat Patty. So I'm going to go along with Jared Gordon. I think Mark Madsen is kind of, his better days are behind him. And I think that Jared Gordon is comparable on the ground. I think his grappling and his jiu-jitsu might be enough to negate anything Mark Madsen's going to be able to do on the ground with him. So I'm going to go along with Jared Gordon in this. And his stand-up is better. John Castaneda stepping in there against Kung Ho Kang. I'm going to go along with John Castaneda to get the win. My guy goes out there, he throws him hands, he lays it in. He's skilled on the feet. He's got sharp, crisp boxing. I'm going to go along with John Castaneda to get the win. Let's see, we got Joshua Van stepping in there against Kevin Boras. I'm going to lean toward, I don't really know in this fight. I'm going to lean toward Joshua Van. I'm not sure, but that's who I'm going to lean toward. And then finally we got Jamal Emmers stepping in there against Dennis Bazooka. I'm going to go along with Jamal Emmers. I think he's a really good fighter. I think he hasn't had the best run since he's been in the octagon thus far, but I think he's definitely could possibly be a good prospect further down the road. So that's it. That's UFC 295. It goes down this Saturday night in New York in Madison Square Gardens. We're going to crown 2 new champions. One, the light heavyweight champion of the world, hopefully Alex Poatan Pereira, and the other being the interim heavyweight champion of the world, hopefully Sergey Pavlovich. You let me know your picks, especially for the main event and the co-main event. Let me know, is it Matt or is it fact? Who do you believe is going to win? Please like, subscribe, comment. Let me know the fights you're looking forward to this Saturday night. Let me know what you think about Mackenzie Dern. And let me know what you think about Mackenzie Dern. And you need to pay these bills and pay off what she owes to her ex-husband. Maybe it's alimony, maybe it's legal fees, but she needs that check. Let me know what you think about whatever on the card. Just reach out to me, guys. Let me know. I appreciate everything. I want to thank you for joining me for another episode of Matter of Fact MMA. And I'll check you next time. Peace. Go Poatan.